Hey everybody, it's Charles from HumbleMechanic.com, and today I'm going to take your questions on VR6 swaps, dealership problems, and the Atlas. This is episode 219 of the Humble Mechanic podcast. Alright guys, welcome to the very first episode in 2018. Remember, if you want to get a question on a show like this, email me just like everyone else did today, charles@humblemechanic.com. Question for Charles in the subject. Give me some space, then give me the details of your question. Also, if you don't see your question on a show like this, check out the quick videos playlist on YouTube where I do one question per video. And a quick shout out to today's sponsor, Penison Coolant. They are one of the only aftermarket coolants that is acceptable to use in our VW and Audi cars. No matter what kind of car you have, make sure you put in the right stuff in it. I also want to remind you guys that there is an audio-only version of these shows. You can check them out on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, whatever your favorite podcasting platform is. Also, if you want to support the show, check out the Crew Membership program. Some really great discounts, great content that you can't get anywhere else, and some things we're going to talk about today that play right into it. All right, all that's wrapped up. Let's get to the questions. First one up. I need advice on shifting and clutch linkage in a Mark 1 VR6 swap. Do you recommend shifter cable and hydro clutch conversion, or cable clutch and solid linkage shifter from Eurowise? Recently purchased a 77 Scirocco and I'm going to restore it. I'm planning on using a 12-valve VR6 using the Eurowise kit. I was wondering if you had any advice concerning the shifting linkage and clutch release. I've read that the Eurowise cable clutch conversion, the bracket for the cable interferes with the reverse lights on the O2J. I could use an O2A. For you non-VW people, these are just two different styles of transmission shifting towers and linkages. I've also read that if you use Eurowise's linkage for the shifter that you can't use their downpipe. I'm just wondering if you could shed some light on the subject when you did your Mark 1. So when I did my Mark 1, my 88 Cabriolet VR6 swap, this was like 5 years ago, 4 years ago, something like that, and Eurowise was still in development of some of these things. So what I did was I did use the Eurowise kit. I used the O2A transmission. I used the mechanical clutch actuator and the Eurowise clutch cable. I want to say the actuator's from like an early 90s Eurovan or something like that. It's the same one Eurowise sells on their site. I just bought it from the dealership because it was available and I could get it cheaper. And that was okay, but if I were gonna do it again, I would probably go to the hydraulic clutch. I like the way that performs better, personally, than I liked the cable clutch. It is gonna require a little bit more, and you probably will have to go to the Mark III pedal cluster, but I think overall it's going to produce a better driving car. There wasn't anything wrong with the cable in the Eurovan actuator. It worked great, no issues at all. I just like the hydraulic clutch a little bit better. When it came to the cables, I actually just used the O2A cables and shifter box. I took the Cabrio one out and I put the other one in. It did require a little bit of modification, a little cutting, a little spacing out to get it right. I mounted it from the bottom up, which I thought put the shifter a little low, but I think if you put it on top, the shifter would be a little high. So you can kind of play around with that if you're planning on using that shifter box. If you want to keep the stock shifter, then yeah, you can use that Eurowise kit, but I liked the O2A better than the factory one in the Cabriolet, and the O2J is an even better shift box. Either way, that's going to require a little bit of modification. I'll also tell you, if you use the cable from Eurowise, you'll need to cut the tube for the clutch cable that I assume the Scirocco has anyway, very similar to the Cabriolet. Keep that in mind, and there is a bit of adjustment that you have to do there. As far as the bracket and the header not fitting, I don't know specifically. It doesn't make sense to me, though, that Eurowise would develop two products that don't work together when they should 100% work together. So you may want to give them a call and ask them. The guys at Eurowise are awesome. We've had a great relationship for many, many years. In fact, they support the crew members that I talked about earlier. There's also other options. SP Automotive, they make another kit. It's different. They may have solved some of the issues that the early Eurowise kits some people were seeing, maybe. So you can check them out. I'll link both of those up in the description. You can check them both out. Both of them support the crew members. Both of them will give you a discount that'll pay for more than pay for the crew membership. So you want to check that out, my little plug for the crew members. But I just basically took powertrain cables, dropped it into the Mark 1, and then for the clutch, used the Eurovan actuator, which is a mechanical actuator. It bolts right where the slave cylinder, if it were hydraulic, would bolt, and it worked just fine. I just really do prefer the hydraulic clutch setup. And I have to recommend, since I'm fighting the problem now, if you're going to do an upgraded clutch, I would definitely recommend upgrading the clutch fork because, well, they bend a lot easier than I think they should. Granted, both of mine were pretty high mileage, so if you replace it, you may not have that problem. And if you're going with the stock clutch, don't worry about it, it won't be an issue. But if you're upgrading, then I highly recommend upgrading that piece as well. All right, next one up is from Aubrey. Do I need to replace my crash sensor on a 97 GTI VR after front-end damage and airbags deployed and an airbag dash light? Or does it even have one? So this is a good question. That car does not have a front crash sensor in the way that like modern cars have. I mean, that's a pretty old car by today's standards. So most modern cars will actually have a sensor in the front of the vehicle to detect an impact. All of the impact detection on that car, unless it has side airbags, is done by the airbag module. So what you will have to do is you will have to replace the airbag module, which is located underneath the front center of the dash, about a foot in front of where the shifter assembly is. And of course, you'll need to replace any airbags that were deployed. Another big thing is don't forget the seat belts. The seat belts in a lot of cars, they are either electric pyrotechnic or mechanical. And once that's deployed, the seatbelts aren't any good anymore. In fact, if you are in a collision wearing your seatbelt, which you should be, and the airbag's deployed, you really want to replace whatever seatbelt someone was sitting in. You don't know the stress that that seatbelt has taken, even in the webbing. Perhaps there's a stitch or two that are missing, perhaps it's stretched. That's a lot of force that that belt is holding, and you want to make sure you replace it. And of course, if the seatbelt pyrotechnic has blown, you need to replace it anyway. So take a look at that. Don't forget, don't neglect the seat belts, the actual, click belt. Make sure you check the buckles and make sure they're in good condition as well. They're not monitored like they are on the new stuff, but you need to replace it if there's any question of any issue. You really want to get it replaced. Unfortunately, this probably isn't going to be cheap, and if you were to turn it into the insurance, I almost guarantee with airbag deployment, they'd total the car, which is kind of a bummer, especially if it's just minor front-end damage that could be easily replaced. But airbags are expensive. There's not a lot of used or aftermarket ones that I would trust anyway. And seatbelts too, a lot of that stuff may not be available anymore. So all things to consider when you're making these repairs. All right, next one up is from Kevin. And Kevin sent me a really long, detailed email that I'm not going to read, but I'm going to try and sum up as best I can. Kevin says, what do I do when my vehicle is under warranty, but almost out of warranty and is having an issue the dealerships, yes, plural, don't want to take the time to diagnose and VW doesn't care line won't do anything about? This is regarding coolant issues and dealerships not finding coolant issues or caring about the problem. So Kevin has a 16 GTI that's experiencing some coolant loss, had it to multiple dealerships. A dealership charged him almost $200 to diagnose this coolant leak on a car under warranty, which there may be other circumstances to this, but if that's the case, I don't know what happened, but they definitely shouldn't be charging a customer anything for something that could be under warranty. All right, this is a really bad situation, and without being directly involved in getting both sides, it's hard to say, Kevin, here's the problem, but Kevin's reached out to Volkswagen, gotten nowhere, not getting anywhere with multiple dealerships. There's no easy answer for this, right? The easy answer is find another dealership that's better than the 2 or 3, whatever you've been taking it to, but that may not be feasible. From a technician standpoint, it's my responsibility to find the problem of the car, to duplicate your concern and to find the issue. Coolant leaks can be very hard to find, believe it or not, despite the bright pink coolant that always leaves a nice crusty trail when it leaks. These can be tricky to find, but based on Kevin's description of what the dealerships told him that they've done, is they're pulling codes, which makes no sense. Well, it's a step, but it doesn't make sense to find a coolant leak, and they're not even pressure testing the system because they, quote, can't find anything visually. Well, you can't find anything visually. That's why you pressure test the cooling system. That's the whole point. So, Kevin, dude, I don't know what to do here. I would not take it back to either one of those 2 dealerships. I would put a lot of pressure on VW of America to find a better dealership or find a place where the QTM, the regional guy, can look at the car. Because if the technicians in the dealership aren't capable or aren't willing, which is probably more the case, aren't willing to put the time and effort into finding the problem, you need to take it somewhere else. Some of this stems from the way technicians are paid. And guys, if you're doing stuff under warranty and you can't find a problem, you don't get paid as a technician. So you find the problem, right? We write our stories we document everything, and we find the problem. If you don't want to take the time to find the problem, why are you taking the car in the first place? If he's experiencing coolant loss at a rate that's high enough, he's not going to waste his time and waste days of his life to bring the car there just because he thinks it's fun. Most, like 99.99% of customers aren't going to do that. There's some oddball customers out there that may, but most people have a lot better things to do than drag their car to and from the dealership. Take the time and pressure test the cooling system. I know this is off tangent a little bit. Pressure test the cooling system, find the leak, get paid to fix it. So, Kevin, what do you do? Like I said, man, put more pressure on VW of America. That's really the best way. The good thing is, for the most part, a coolant leak is going to also probably be covered under a powertrain warranty, which extends the time you have a little bit. But dude, I'd be pretty frustrated too. So the best bet is to put more pressure on VW of America. No, they can't force the dealership to do anything. They can't force a dealership to do anything, but putting pressure on them puts pressure on the dealership and hopefully gets you what you want. You need to find someone that will look at it, pressure test the system, and try and find a leak. Since you've already had to pay something, another idea is to take it to an independent shop that can charge you $30 to put the pressure tester on it and let it sit for 20 or 30 minutes and see if it's leaking. Maybe it's leaking only when it's hot, maybe it's leaking only when it's cold, maybe you do have to leave it overnight, which I don't think you should have to pay a rental bill like you did for them to diagnose the problem. We always approached everything as if it were covered under warranty until we proved it wasn't, except for a very small number of circumstances with things like clutches where odds are it wasn't, but you know, we tried to err on the side of the customer and making it right for them because we could figure out how to get paid for it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But you, dude, I just can't say enough. You got to find somewhere else because these guys aren't taking the time, energy, effort to care about your car. And it's unfortunate. And it's a systematic problem with the industry, and it's a problem with the way technicians are paid. It's a problem with people not understanding what it's like to be on the other side of that. You know, there's always a customer on the other side of that car. There's always a customer that relies on that car to live their life, and it's sometimes easy to lose sight of that. So, dude, I hope that helps. There's no magic answer. There's no magic wand, Harry Potter style, that will get you your car fixed. All right, last one of the day comes from Chris. I'm thinking about purchasing the Atlas due to travel, dogs, kids, soccer tournaments, requiring long trips, and I'm inquiring to get an opinion on the vehicle and its quality. I'm looking at minivans, SUVs, wagons like the Atlas, Highlander, and Pilot. I'd like an insider view of the vehicle, engine, trans, electrical. I've never owned a VW before. I've watched a few of your videos. Thanks for your insight in the industry, Chris. Okay, Chris, I actually haven't spent a couple of days in an Atlas recently. I'm working on doing a review for you guys, and I'm mixed. It's big, so if you need space, got the space. It's functional with that space, getting in and out of it, and especially third row, very easy. Adults can sit in the third row relatively comfortable, ton of headroom, pretty good leg room, especially for sitting in the back of a SUV, right? And there's still a fair amount of cargo space, although it's not perfect. With that third row folded down, the space in the back is awesome, the space in the middle row is great, and the space in the cockpit and passenger seat are fantastic. It is a big vehicle. And I think that might be part of my problem, is that to me is so different from what I think of as small, economical, fuel-efficient cars that to me a VW is, right? So that's part of my struggle with it. It drives good, not great. It's a bit underpowered, and I noticed a little bit of awkwardness in that 1-2, 2-3 shifting pattern. Very similar to the Tiguan anyway. I drove a VR4 Motion, which, it drove good. It didn't drive quite as big as I think the Atlas truly is, but you're still hauling around a big car. Fuel economy was average-ish, 17, 18 miles per gallon, which isn't great, but isn't terrible. Boy, would I have loved to seen a 3-liter turbo diesel in this Atlas, but we all know we're not going to see that. So some of the negatives, it was noisy, a lot of wind noise. I didn't like the driver assist systems. It has the steering, the lane departure warning that actually pushes you and will steer the car for you. I didn't love that. You don't have to get that equipped, and you can turn that off. Don't love start-stop feature, but it's coming broad spectrum on all cars, so get used to it. My biggest hang-up with the Atlas right now is quality issues. This is a brand new vehicle, so when you purchase a new model car, You are the rolling beta tester. Any problem that comes up, you're probably going to find. There's been a lot of quality issues from the plant. There's been fit-finish issues. And I worry about buying, even like the second run of the first generation is going to be better. I still worry about that very first model year of the Atlas. So would I buy one now? No. Would I lease one now? Maybe. But if you're doing a ton of traveling, a lease might not work for you. Here's what I'd recommend. Go look at one. Get in it. Bring the family. Jump in and out, let the salesman go do his thing while you guys open up all the doors and sit on all the seats and let him make him let you take it on more than a 4-minute test drive and really get a feel for it. Because just because I think it's an awesome car or a suck car doesn't mean it applies to you at all. In that, Target, I think averaging $40,000, there's a lot of other vehicles that you can consider. We got to compare it to the Ford Explorer and the Honda Pilot. The Honda had Honda reliability, right? So that's good. The Ford was more appropriately powered, I thought, but the room was not awesome in the Ford. The Honda had a couple of things that I really liked about it that off the top of my head I'm forgetting. Something like getting in and out of the back seats was pretty good in the Honda, but I think the Atlas wore it better. The Honda also had that big weird camera on the right mirror on the outside, which I didn't like. The buttons and everything in the Atlas, it's very Volkswagen, so I'm comfortable with that. But you may be different because this is your first VW. Can you get in a Highlander equally equipped for that same price point? I don't know. But those are all things you're going to have to consider. And I really recommend you're spending a ton of money. Take a day or two and just go get in the cars. Be upfront with the salesman. Say, hey, look, I'm not going to buy this today. If he's a jerk, fine, let him be a jerk. You won't buy it from him anyway. Get in and out of these cars as much as you can and find what fits perfect for your family and your life. Look at what overall cost of ownership is. Look at how much maintenance is. How much does an oil change cost? When is it due? Those are all things that play into it. And understand when you're buying a new model, I don't really care who made it. You are the rolling beta tester. So expect campaigns, expect recalls, expect problems. If you don't want to deal with that, then don't buy a new model car. As much as I hate to say it, it's gonna happen. Almost every model release that I've been with, VW with, has had a number of problems from day one. The 04 Touareg was far and away the worst, and then some other ones, minor things that we handled at the dealership level. Some did get out into the world. They do a lot more testing than I think we think they do, but they can't put these cars in every situation that customers do. So I know they probably do a pretty good job or their best, but you're still going to run into issues. So just keep that in mind. I liked it. It's just not a Volkswagen really to me. For you never having a Volkswagen, that may actually be a good thing. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. Questions, comments, as always, you know what to do. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, give it a share. Don't forget to subscribe and ding the bell if you want updates, or don't if you don't. Remember, you can listen only on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and more, also at HumbleMechanic.com. If you want to support the show, check out the Crew membership. I also have a Patreon, as well as my Amazon link. All of that is linked up in the description down below or over on the blog. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course on Snapchat. All right, guys, happy 2018. Hope you had an awesome holiday season. Thank you for watching and listening, and I will see you next time.